I dropped my husband off at the airport thinking it was just another business trip. But just as I was about to leave, my 6-year-old son squeezed my hand tight and whispered, "Mom, don't go back home. This morning I heard Dad planning something very bad against us. Please, this time, believe me." I believed him, and we hid, and what I saw next made me panic. But before I continue, make sure you are already subscribed to the channel Elderly Stories, and write in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. The fluorescent lights of Chicago O'Hare International Airport hurt my eyes that Thursday night. I was tired, that kind of tired that comes from inside, you know? It is not just sleepiness, it is an exhaustion of the soul that I had been dragging around for months without really understanding why. My husband Richard was by my side with that perfect smile he always wore in public. Impeccable gray suit, leather briefcase in hand, expensive cologne that I myself had given him for his last birthday. To the eyes of anyone in that terminal, we were the ideal couple. He, the successful executive, me, the dedicated wife dropping him off at the airport before an important business trip. If they only knew. By my side, with his sweaty little hand holding mine tight, was Matthew, my 6-year-old son. My whole world. He was too still that night, quieter than usual. And mind you, Matthew was always an observant child, one of those who prefers to watch rather than participate. But that night there was something different in his eyes, a fear I could not name. "This meeting in New York is crucial, honey," Richard said, pulling me in for a calculated hug. Everything about him was calculated, only I did not know it yet. 3 days at most, and I will be back. You take care of everything here, right? Take care of everything, as if my life was just that, holding everything together while he built his empire. But I smiled. I smiled like I always smiled, because that was what was expected of me. "Of course, we will be fine," I replied, feeling Matthew squeeze my hand even harder. Richard crouched down in front of our son. He put both hands on his shoulders. In that way, he always did when he wanted to look like the perfect father. "And you, champ? Take care of Mommy for me?" Matthew did not answer. He just nodded, his eyes fixed on his father's face. That look was as if he were memorizing every detail, every feature, as if he were seeing Richard for the last time. I should have noticed. I should have sensed that something was wrong right there. But we never notice the signs when they come from those we love, right? We think we know the person, that after 8 years of marriage, nothing can surprise us. How naive I was. Richard kissed Matthew's forehead, then mine. "I love you guys. See you soon." And then he turned around. He took his carry-on and walked toward the gate. Matthew and I stayed there, standing in the middle of that crowd of goodbyes and reunions, watching him disappear. When I finally could not see Richard anymore, I took a deep breath. "Come on, son. Let's go home." My voice came out tired. I just wanted to get home, take off these uncomfortable heels I had put on to look more presentable, and maybe watch something on TV until sleep came. We started walking down the long airport corridor, our steps echoing on the floor. Matthew was even quieter now, and I could feel the tension in his small body through the hand holding mine. "Everything okay, sweetie? You are very quiet today." He did not answer immediately. We kept walking, passing closed shops, flight schedule screens, people rushing with suitcases. It was only when we got near the exit, when the automatic glass doors were already in sight, that he stopped. He stopped so abruptly that I almost tripped. "Matthew, what is wrong?" It was then that he looked at me. And God, that look, I will never forget it. It was pure terror, that kind of fear a 6-year-old boy should not even know. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling, "we cannot go back home." My heart did a strange jump in my chest. I crouched down in front of him, holding his 2 little arms. "What do you mean, son? Of course we are going home. It is late. You need to sleep." "No!" His voice came out louder, desperate. Some people turned their heads to look at us. He swallowed hard and continued, now in an urgent whisper. "Mom, please, we cannot go back. Believe me this time, please." This time. Those two words hurt me, because it was true. Weeks ago, Matthew had told me he saw a strange car parked in front of our house. The same car. 3 nights in a row. I told him it was a coincidence. Days later, he swore he had heard Dad talking quietly in the office about resolving the problem once and for all. I told him it was work matters, that he should not listen to adult conversations. I did not believe him, and now he was begging me, with tears starting to form in those brown eyes. This time, believe me. "Matthew, explain to me. What is going on?" My voice came out firmer than I felt inside. He looked around as if afraid someone might hear him. Then he pulled my arm, making me lean in even closer to him, and whispered in my ear, "This morning, very early, I woke up before everyone. I went for water and heard Dad in his office. He was on the phone. He said that tonight, when we were sleeping, something bad was going to happen, that he needed to be far away when it happened, that we were not going to be in his way anymore." My blood froze. "Matthew, are you sure? Are you sure of what you heard?" He nodded, desperate. "He said there were people who were going to take care of it. He said he was finally going to be free." "Mom," his voice. It was not Dad's voice. It was different, scary. My first instinct was to deny it, to say it was imagination, that he had misunderstood, that Richard would never. But then I remembered things, small things I had ignored. Richard increasing his life insurance 3 months ago, saying it was just a precaution. Richard insisting that I put everything, the house in the suburbs, the car, even the joint account, only in his name. "It makes taxes easier, honey." Richard getting angry when I mentioned I wanted to go back to work. "It is not necessary. I take care of everything." The strange calls he answered, locked in the office, the increasingly frequent trips, and that conversation I heard by accident 2 weeks ago when I thought he was asleep. He was muttering on the phone, "Yes, I know the risk, but there is no other way. It has to look accidental." At that moment, I convinced myself it was about work, about some risky business deal. But what if it was not? I looked at Matthew, at that terrified face, at the tears rolling down, at his trembling hands, and I made the most important decision of my life. "Okay, son, I believe you." The relief that passed over his face was instant, but it lasted little. "So what are we going to do?" Good question. My brain was racing. If Matthew was right and every cell in my body was starting to scream that he was, going home was a death sentence. But where to go? To whose house? All our friends were Richard's friends too. My family lived in another state. And what if I was wrong? What if it was all a terrible misunderstanding? But what if it was not? "Let's go to the car," I decided. "But we are not going home. We are going to watch, from far away, just to be sure, okay?" Matthew nodded. I took his hand again and we walked to the parking lot. My heart was beating so fast I could hear the blood pulsing in my ears. Every step seemed to weigh a ton. The cold night air hit me as we left the airport. The parking lot was dimly lit with only a few scattered cars. Ours was in a corner, a silver sedan that Richard had insisted on buying last year. "A safe car for my family," he said. Safe. What a bitter joke. We opened the car and got in. I buckled Matthew in, then myself. My hands were shaking so much it took me 3 tries to start the engine. "Mom?" Matthew's voice was small in the back seat. "Yes, my love." "Thanks for believing me." I looked in the rearview mirror. He was curled up in the seat, hugging the dinosaur backpack he took everywhere. "I am always going to believe you, son. Always." And in that moment, I realized I should have said that before. I should have listened to him from the beginning. I drove in silence. I did not go straight home. I took an alternate route, a parallel street that overlooked our street without us being easily seen. I found a dark spot between two large trees and parked. From there, we could see our house in the suburbs. Everything looked normal. The streetlights illuminated the sidewalk, our well-kept lawn, the porch where Richard and I drank coffee on Sundays, Matthew's bedroom window with the Batman curtains he had chosen, house, our home. Or at least that was what I thought. I turned off the engine and the car lights. Total darkness, total silence, except for our breathing. And now we wait, I whispered. Matthew said nothing. He just kept looking out the window, his eyes fixed on the house. And so we stayed, waiting, not knowing that in less than an hour, everything I thought I knew about my life was going to crumble. The clock on the dashboard marked 10:17 p.m. when I started to question if I wasn't being completely ridiculous. There I was, hiding on a dark street with my 6-year-old son, staking out my own house like we were spies in a bad movie. What kind of mother does this? What kind of wife suspects her own husband of what exactly? I could not even form the complete thought in my head. It was too absurd. Richard never raised a hand to me. He never yelled at Matthew. He was a present father, a provider husband. But was he a loving husband? The question came out of nowhere and caught me off guard. When was the last time he looked at me with real affection? That he asked how my day was and really wanted to hear the answer? That he touched me without it being mechanical, automatic? When was the last time I felt loved and not just maintained? "Mom, look!" Matthew's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. My heart raced. What? What did you see? There, that car. I followed the direction of his small finger. A car was turning onto our street. But it was not just any car. It was a dark van without any decals, no front license plate visible. The windows were tinted so dark it was impossible to see who was inside. The van slowed down as it passed in front of the houses. Too slow to be someone just passing through. It was like it was searching. My breath caught in my throat when the van stopped, exactly in front of our house. "It can't be," I whispered. "It can't." But it was. The two front doors opened. Two men got out. Even from a distance, even with the poor lighting, you could see they were not technicians or delivery guys or anything normal. They wore dark clothes, hooded jackets, and the way they moved was furtive, calculated. They stood for a moment in front of our gate looking around. My instinct was to scream, call the police, do something. But I was paralyzed, watching as if it were a nightmare from which I could not wake up. One of them, the taller one, reached into his pocket. I expected him to pull out a crowbar, some tool to force entry. That would be a burglary. I could deal with a burglary. I could call the police, file a report, move on. But what he pulled out of his pocket made my world come crashing down. A key. He had a key to our house. "Mom!" Matthew's voice trembled. "How do they have the key?" I could not answer. I was too busy trying not to vomit. The man opened the gate as if he were the owner, without forcing, without breaking. He simply opened it, and then he walked to the front door where he repeated the process. Another key. The door opened smoothly. Only 3 people had a key to our house. Me, Richard, and the spare key that was in his office in the locked desk drawer. The 2 men entered my house. Into the house where I slept yesterday, where I made breakfast for Matthew this morning, where I felt safe. They did not turn on the lights. I could see beams of flashlights dancing behind the curtains. They were looking for something. Or worse, they were preparing something. I do not know how long I sat there, frozen, watching. It could have been 5 minutes or 50. Time had lost meaning. All that existed was that vision. 2 strangers inside my house, with keys only my husband could have given them. Then I smelled it. At first I thought I was imagining it, but it got stronger. A chemical smell. Strong. Gasoline. "Mom, what is that smell?" Matthew asked. And that was when I saw it. Smoke. It started small, just a thin thread coming out of the living room window. Then another, from the kitchen window. And then I saw the glow. That sinister orange glow that can only mean one thing: fire. No. I got out of the car without thinking. No, no, no. Matthew's hand pulled me back. Mom, no, you cannot go there. He was right. I knew it. But it was my house, my things, the photos from when Matthew was born, the wedding dress kept in the closet, the drawings Matthew made that I stuck on the fridge, the blanket my grandmother knitted before she died, everything, burning. The flames grew fast, terrifyingly fast. In a matter of minutes, the living room was totally invaded. The fire licked the walls, broke the windows, climbed to the second floor where Matthew's room was. That was when the sirens started. Someone must have seen the smoke and called the fire department. The dark van sped off without turning on its lights, disappearing around the corner seconds before the first fire truck appeared. I was shaking so much I could barely stand. Matthew was hugging me from behind, his little face buried in my back, sobbing. Matthew was right, I murmured. You were right, son. You were right. If we had gone back home, if I had not believed him, we would be in there now, sleeping, unknowing, and those men would have... I could not complete the thought. My legs gave way and I fell to my knees right there in the middle of the dark street, watching my life turn into ashes. My phone vibrated in my pocket. With trembling hands, I picked it up. It was a message from Richard. Honey, just landed. Hope you and Matthew are sleeping well. I love you both. See you soon. I read the message once, twice, 3 times. Every word was a knife. Every heart emoji was poison. He knew, of course he knew. He was in another state building his perfect alibi while he hired people to kill us, to burn us alive while we slept. And then he would return as the devastated husband, the grieving father. He would cry at the wake, receive condolences, and he would keep everything. The life insurance, the house, or what was left of it, the bank account, free. That was what Matthew heard him say on the phone. I am finally going to be free. Free of me. Free of his son. The nausea came with force. I turned around and vomited right there on the sidewalk. Everything I had in my stomach came out, along with any illusion I still had about my marriage. When I finally could stop, I wiped my mouth with the sleeve of my blouse and looked at Matthew. He was sitting on the curb, hugging his knees, watching the house burn. Tears rolled down his little face, but he was not sobbing anymore, just watching. A 6-year-old child should not have that expression, that terrible and premature understanding that people who should love you can want to hurt you. I sat beside him and pulled him into a tight hug. I'm sorry, I whispered into his hair. I am sorry for not believing you sooner. I am sorry for everything. He held on to me as if I were the only solid thing in a world that had turned upside down. And maybe I was. What are we going to do now, Mom? It was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? What do you do when you discover that the man who promised to love and protect you actually wants to see you dead? We could not go back home. A home did not even exist to go back to anymore. We could not go to the police. Richard had an ironclad alibi, and it was just me and the word of a 6-year-old boy against his. We could not go to friends or family. Everyone would think I was crazy, in shock from the fire, making things up. And Richard was free, flying back at that very moment, probably practicing the expression of shock and sadness he was going to use when he discovered the tragedy. We needed help. Help from someone Richard did not know, someone who could understand, someone who knew how to deal with what? Attempted murder? Conspiracy to kill? It was then that I remembered. My dad, before dying 2 years ago, had given me a card. He was on a difficult day, right after his cancer diagnosis. He called me to the hospital room, took my hand and said, Emily, I do not trust that husband of yours. I never trusted him. If one day you need help, real help, look for this person. The card had a name, Attorney Jennifer Hernandez, lawyer, and a phone number. At that moment, I was offended. How could my dad not trust Richard? Richard, who was so attentive to him, who visited him in the hospital, who paid for the best doctors. But now I understood. My father saw something I refused to see, and he left me a way out. I grabbed the phone again. Battery was at 23%. I needed to make a quick decision. "Matthew, remember that card Grandpa gave me? The one I kept in my wallet?" He nodded. "I am going to call the person on it. She is going to help us." At least I hoped so. With trembling fingers, I dialed the number. 3 rings. 4. It was going to go to voicemail when a female voice, raspy but firm, answered. "Hello? Attorney Jennifer. My name is Emily Oliver. You do not know me, but my father was Robert Oliver. He gave me your number. I need a lot of help." There was a pause. Then, "Emily, Robert told me about you. Where are you?" My house just burned down. I am on the street with my son. And my husband tried to kill us." Another pause. Longer. When she spoke again, the voice was different, more urgent. "Are you safe now? Can you drive?" "Yes." "Then write down this address." Attorney Jennifer's office was in an old building downtown, the kind of place you pass by without noticing. It did not have a flashy sign, just a small, faded plaque. J. Hernandez, Legal Counsel. It was almost midnight when I parked in front. The street was deserted, only a few streetlights working. Matthew had fallen asleep in the back seat during the ride, exhausted from so much crying. I had to carry him in my arms. Before I rang the bell, the door opened. A woman was there. She must have been about 60, gray hair pulled back in a bun, glasses hanging from a chain. She wore a simple blouse and jeans, as if she had been woken up, but her eyes were alert, analyzing every detail of me and Matthew. "Emily?" "Yes. Come in, quick." I obeyed. She closed the door behind us with 3 different locks. The office smelled of old books and strong coffee. There were piles of files everywhere, old cabinets, a table full of papers. "Put the boy on the sofa over there," she indicated. "There's a blanket on the chair." I laid Matthew down carefully. I covered him. He was still sleeping, his little face still marked by tears. "Coffee?" she offered. I was going to refuse, but she was already pouring 2 cups. She handed me one and pointed to the chair in front of her desk. "Sit down and tell me everything. From the beginning, omit nothing." And I told her. I told her about Richard's trip, about Matthew's whisper at the airport, about the decision to hide and watch the house, the men with the keys, the fire, Richard's message faking concern while knowing we should be dead. Attorney Jennifer did not interrupt me once. She just listened, fingers interlaced under her chin, eyes fixed on me. When I finished, she stayed silent for a long moment. "Your father asked me to look out for you if something like this happened," she said finally. "Robert was a very smart man. He noticed things about your husband that you did not want to see." That hurt, but it was true. He knew Richard was capable of this. He suspected Richard was not who he pretended to be, that he married you for interest, that he was dangerous. She took a sip of coffee. "Robert left me some things, documents, information about you and about Richard. I thought I would never need to use them, but..." She got up and went to a locked cabinet. She took out a thick folder and returned, putting it on the table between us. "Your father hired a private investigator 3 years ago, discreetly, to check Richard's businesses." My heart shrank. "And what did they find?" "Debts, many debts. Gambling, mainly. Your husband has a serious problem, Emily. He owes loan sharks, illegal casinos, very dangerous people." She opened the folder, showing bank statements, photos, reports. "His businesses have been bankrupt for 2 years. He has been using the money from the inheritance your mother left to plug the holes, but it is almost all gone." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. My mother's inheritance. $50,000 she left me that I put in a joint account because, "We are married, honey." What is mine is yours. He spent it all? Every last cent. She turned a page. And now the loan sharks are collecting, with interest. Richard owes almost $200,000. People like that do not negotiate, Emily. Either he pays or... She did not need to finish the sentence. But I do not have that money. We do not have it. So why did he... Life insurance, she said simply. You have a life insurance policy of $2 million. Your father insisted on that when you got married, remember? He said it was important to protect you and a future grandchild. I remembered. I remembered Richard thinking it was exaggerated at the time, but accepting. I never questioned. I never thought. And if I died in an accident, I continued the reasoning, feeling bile rise to my throat, Richard would receive the $2 million. He pays the debts. He is free. Exactly. Attorney Jennifer closed the folder. And a fire is the perfect type of accident. Difficult to prove it was arson. Difficult to trace. And he has the perfect alibi. He was in another state when it happened. But I did not die, and neither did Matthew, and he does not know yet. The way she said that made something click in my head. Are you suggesting that we let him think the plan worked? For now. She leaned forward. Emily, if you show up now, it will be his word against yours. Do you have proof? Witnesses? Anything other than the story of a 6-year-old boy who could have misunderstood a conversation? I had nothing. Only the certainty in my heart and the fear in my son's eyes. But what about the men who burned the house? Won't the police investigate? They will, and they will conclude it was an accident, a short circuit, a gas leak, anything. These men are professionals, Emily. They do not leave traces. She sighed. Richard planned this very well. The only flaw in his plan was that Matthew heard and that I believed him. Exactly. I looked at my son sleeping on the sofa, so small, so innocent, and yet he had saved our lives. So, what do? I cannot just disappear. My documents, my ID, everything burned in the house. I have no money, I have nowhere to go. You have me, said Attorney Jennifer. And do you have something Richard does not know you have? What? She smiled, a cold smile that made me see why my father trusted her. The truth, and time to prove it. Richard will return tomorrow. He will pretend to be devastated. He will perform for the police and the neighbors. He will look for the bodies, and when he does not find them, he will know something went wrong. Yes, but by then, we will already be 10 steps ahead. I did not completely understand what she meant, but I was too exhausted to question, too exhausted to think. I could barely keep my eyes open. You and the boy will stay here tonight, she decided. There is a small room in the back. It is not much, but it has a bed. Tomorrow we will plan the next steps. Attorney Jennifer, why are you doing this? Why help this much? She stayed quiet for a moment, looking at some point beyond me, lost in some memory. Robert saved my life once, a long time ago, when my own husband tried to kill me. She returned her gaze to me. I know exactly what you are feeling now, Emily. The shock, the betrayal, the fear. And I promised your father that if you needed me, I would be here. It is a debt I have the pleasure of repaying. I swallowed the tears that threatened to fall. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. The game has just begun. I slept for maybe 3 hours, but it felt like 3 minutes. I woke up with Matthew shaking me, scared, asking where we were. It took me a few seconds to remember, and when I did, reality hit me like a bucket of cold water. My husband tried to kill me. It did not matter how many times I repeated that in my head. It still seemed unreal, surreal, like a nightmare I was going to wake up from at any moment. But it was not, and the morning news proved it. Attorney Jennifer knocked on the door of the small room at 7. "Turn on the TV, channel 5. There it was. Fire destroys house in luxury gated community. Fate of the family still unknown. They showed the house, or what was left of it. Just black walls and smoking rubble. Firefighters still working, sifting through debris. And then they showed him, Richard, getting out of a taxi in the middle of the confusion, with an expression I recognized, the one he used when he rehearsed important speeches in front of the mirror. Calculated concern, measured horror. My wife, my son. For the love of God, someone tell me they were not inside. He was shouting at the camera, at the police officers, at anyone who would listen. The reporter explained that he was traveling for work, that he had just landed and had come straight to the scene. A desperate husband looking for his missing family, he narrated with that serious news voice. I felt Matthew shrink beside me. "He is lying," my son whispered. "He is pretending he cares." And he was. You could see it if you looked closely, the way he checked the cameras before collapsing in tears. How his eyes were dry, even with his hands covering his face. How he asked the firefighters, "Did you find the bodies yet?" With an urgency that was not of someone who has hope, but of someone who needs confirmation. He wanted to make sure we were dead. Attorney Jennifer turned off the TV. He will search for the bodies all day. When he does not find them, he will start to suspect. We have maybe 24 hours before he realizes you escaped. And then? Then he will panic, and people in panic make mistakes. She sat on the edge of the bed. "Emily, I need you to tell me, do you know the combination to the safe Richard has in the office?" I thought for a moment. I know it. It is his birthday. Too obvious. But it works. Does he keep important documents there? I think so. I never paid much attention. We need those documents, especially if he is stupid enough to have kept something linking him to the men he hired. But how? The house is surrounded by police now. It will be for a few hours, but at night when he goes to the hotel, because he will not want to sleep in a burnt house, we can get in. I looked at her, as if she were crazy. "You want me to break into my own house?" "Technically, it is not breaking and entering if you live there." She smiled in that cold way again. "And besides, we are going to need proof, evidence, something solid that proves Richard planned this." It made sense. A terrifying sense, but it did. "I am going with you," Matthew said suddenly. "No way, you are staying here." "Mom, I know where Dad hides things." His voice was small but determined. "There are places you do not know about. I know because I watch. I always watch." And he really did watch. My quiet son, who everyone thought was shy, was actually incredibly attentive. He noticed things I missed. "He is right," agreed Attorney Jennifer. "Children see what adults ignore. If there is something hidden, he will know where to look." I did not like the idea. I did not want to expose Matthew to danger again. But I also knew we needed evidence and time was running out. The day passed slowly. We stayed locked in the office, watching the news, watching Richard perform his theater. He gave interviews to 3 different channels, always with the same story. A devastated businessman looking for his family, the hope of a father, the anguish of not knowing. Lies. It was all a lie. Through the security cameras of the gated community, which Attorney Jennifer had access to through a contact, we saw Richard being taken to the precinct to give a statement. We saw him return and stay in front of the destroyed house for hours, talking to neighbors, to police officers, to whoever appeared. And then, finally, when the sun began to set, we saw him get into a car and leave. "Now," said Attorney Jennifer. She gave me dark clothes, gloves, a small flashlight. She did the same with Matthew. We looked like burglars about to commit a robbery, and in a way that was exactly it. We drove in silence to near the community, but we did not go in through the front. Attorney Jennifer knew a passage in the back where the wall was lower and there were no cameras. Benefits of having defended the developer in his divorce, she explained. We climbed the wall. Well, she and I climbed. We lifted Matthew over. On the other side, it was dark. The smell of smoke was still strong. 20 minutes, whispered Attorney Jennifer. Go in, get what you need, get out. I will stay watching here. I took Matthew's hand and we walked to the house, or what was left of it. The back door, the kitchen one, was partially burnt but could still be opened. We entered. God, the destruction was total. The black walls, the ceiling partially collapsed, the smell of ash and chemicals. Everything that was my life was destroyed, but we did not have time to mourn. The office, I whispered to Matthew. Where is it? He guided me, passing through the destroyed living room, going up the precarious steps of the stairs. Richard's office was on the second floor, and miraculously it hadn't burned as much as the rest. The door was stuck, but I managed to force it. The safe was there, embedded in the wall behind a painting. I entered Richard's birthday. Beep, green, open. Inside there were documents, a lot of cash, probably for illegal payments, and an old cell phone. Take everything. Mom, look here. Matthew's voice came from the other side of the room. He was pointing under a loose floorboard, a hiding place I would never have known existed. I lifted the board. Inside was another cell phone, a black notebook, and an envelope. I grabbed everything in a hurry, stuffing it into the backpack I had brought. Let's go, quick! We were almost at the door when we heard it. Voices downstairs. Are you sure there is no one? Yes. The police already cleared the site. We are just checking. My blood froze. I looked at Matthew. He was pale. We could not go down. Whoever it was blocking our only exit. I grabbed Matthew in my arms and we squeezed inside the office closet. My heart was beating so fast I was sure they would hear us. Through the crack in the closet door, I could see the flashlight beams coming up the stairs. 2 men. They were not police. I recognized the voices. They were the same men who had burned down the house. The boss said to verify if the job was finished, said one of them. Deep voice. It seems they haven't found bodies yet. Impossible. The fire was strong enough that nothing would be left. Maybe they already took them to the morgue. Better make sure. Check the bedrooms. I heard footsteps separating, one going towards the master bedroom, another coming in our direction. The office door opened. Matthew squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. I bit my lip not to make any sound. The man entered, the flashlight beam sweeping the room. It stopped at the open safe. Hey, Mark, come see this. The other one appeared. What happened? The safe is open. It was not like this when we left. Are you sure? Absolutely. We did not even touch the safe. We just set it on fire and left. Tense silence. Someone was here, concluded the one called Mark. Recently. The dust around it is disturbed. Do you think it was the police? The police do not steal money. And look, there are footprints. Small ones. He pointed the flashlight at the floor. Too small to be an adult. My stomach sank. A child, the first man said slowly. Do you think that... I think we have a problem. Mark took a cell phone out of his pocket. I am going to call the boss. He needs to know. I could not allow it. If he called Richard, if he told him someone had been there, that possibly it was us. But what could I do? I was locked in a closet with my 6-year-old son, unarmed, with no way out. It was then that I heard the scream. It came from outside. A female scream, loud, of terror. What the hell was that? Mark bolted downstairs. The other man went after him. I did not waste time. I took Matthew in my arms and ran. I went down the stairs so fast I almost tripped. The back door was open. They must have entered through there. We went out. We ran to the wall. Attorney Jennifer was there, panting. Was it you who screamed? I asked while helping her jump the wall. I needed to get them out of there. Did it work? Yes. I showed her the backpack. I took everything. We ran to her car parked 2 blocks away. Only when we were inside, doors locked, engine running and moving away, could I breathe. Those men saw that someone touched the safe, I said. They will tell Richard. Excellent. I looked at her as if she were crazy. What do you mean, excellent? Now he will know you are alive. He will know you have the proof. He will panic." She smiled while driving. "And people in panic do stupid things." Oh, I do not know if I agreed with her logic, but I was too exhausted to argue. Back at the office, we emptied the backpack on the desk. Documents, cell phones, money, the black notebook. Attorney Jennifer took the notebook first. She opened it. She started reading, and the more she read, the wider her smile became. "Bingo," she murmured. "What is it? Is your husband meticulous, or was he dumb?" "Probably both." She turned the notebook towards me. "Look at this. Dates, amounts, names. He documented every cent he borrowed, from whom and when he had to pay. He even has notes on conversations with the loan sharks." I scanned the pages. Everything was there. Every debt, every threat he received. And then, on the last pages, "Final solution," I read aloud. "Emily's life insurance, $2 million. Accident has to look natural. Contact, mark, service, $50,000. Half up front. Date, November 21st. It was today. Or rather, it was yesterday. "He wrote everything down," I whispered incredulously. "Why would anyone do that?" "Insurance," explained Attorney Jennifer. "If something went wrong, he could use this as leverage against the guys he hired, prove that they were also involved." She picked up one of the cell phones. "And I bet on these phones there is even more evidence. Conversations, calls." It took all night to examine everything. The phones were password protected, but Attorney Jennifer had a contact who managed to unlock them. And there it was, messages between Richard and Mark. "It needs to be a day I am traveling. Solid alibi. Has to look accidental. Fire is good, hard to trace." "And the boy?" Mark had asked. "Him too. No one can be left." Him too. Richard had written coldly about killing our son, as if it were a minor detail, an inconvenience to solve. I felt the hatred grow inside me, a cold hatred, sharp. I was no longer the woman who had married believing she had found love. I was a mother protecting her son, and mothers are dangerous when their children are threatened. "Is this enough to arrest him?" I asked. "Enough to arrest, convict, and throw away the key," confirmed Attorney Jennifer. "But we need to do it right. If we hand this to the wrong police, Richard has enough money and connections to make it disappear, or worse, to make you disappear. So what do we do?" She thought for a moment. "I know a detective, honest, incorruptible, from the homicide division. If we present the case to him, with all this evidence, Richard has nowhere to run." "When?" "Tomorrow morning." But before that, she looked at her cell phone. "Your husband has already tried to call you 7 times in the last hour and sent 15 messages. I picked up my phone. It was on silent, but the screen lit up with notification after notification. "Emily, for the love of God, where are you?" "Honey, I am desperate. Please, answer me. The police said they did not find your body. Where are you? Are you hurt? Emily, answer me." And the most recent one, sent 5 minutes ago. "I know you are alive, and I know you took the things from the safe. We need to talk. Urgent." The mask had fallen. "He knows," I said. "Perfect. Answer him." "What? Are you crazy?" "Answer him. Tell him you want to meet him in a public place. Tomorrow morning." "Why?" Attorney Jennifer smiled. That smile I learned to fear and admire at the same time. "Because we are going to give him a chance to hang himself." I typed the answer with trembling fingers. "City Park, tomorrow 10 a.m. Come alone." Richard's reply came in seconds. "I will be there. Emily, we need to talk. Things are not what you think. Not what I think. As if I were the crazy one in the story. As if I had not seen 2 men burning down my house with my own keys." "Perfect," said Attorney Jennifer. "Tomorrow morning you will meet him, but you will not be alone." She explained the plan. It was risky, maybe insane, but it could work. Detective Miller, the one she knew, agreed to help when she called and explained the situation. He would put plainclothes officers in the park, listening devices, cameras. All we needed was to make Richard confess. He is never going to confess knowing he might be recorded, I argued. He does not need to confess with words, she replied. He just needs to act, and desperate men always act. That night, I could not sleep. I kept imagining the meeting, what I would say, how I would look into the eyes of the man who tried to kill me and pretend normalcy. Matthew slept beside me, finally at peace after days of terror. At least one of us could rest. At 9:30 the next morning, we were in position, me sitting on a bench in City Park wearing a coat with a built-in microphone. Matthew safe in the office with attorney Jennifer, watching everything through cameras the police installed. Detective Miller and his team scattered around the park, dressed as homeless people, street vendors, people walking their dogs. And then I saw Richard. He appeared promptly at 10 a.m. He wore wrinkled clothes, probably the same as yesterday, deep dark circles, unshaven beard. For the first time since I met him, he looked human, vulnerable. But I knew the truth. He saw me and practically ran. "Emily, thank God, are you okay?" He tried to hug me. I stepped back. "Do not touch me." The mask slipped for a second. I saw rage in his eyes before he went back to expressing concern. "Honey, I know you are scared, but you have to listen to me." "Listen to you? Listen to you say what, Richard? That it was all a mistake? That the men who burned our house with our keys were just burglars?" He blinked, calculating. "You? Did you? I saw everything. I was there. Matthew and we saw everything." He went pale. He looked around, nervous. "Not here. Let's go somewhere private." "I'm not going anywhere with you." I kept my voice firm, even though my heart was racing. "Speak here. Now. Why did you try to kill me?" "I didn't. It wasn't like that." He ran a hand through his hair. "Emily, you do not understand. I am in trouble. I owe a lot of money to very dangerous people." "They threatened you. They threatened Matthew. So you decided to kill us first? What logic is that?" "No, I was going to get you out of the country. With the insurance money, we could start over somewhere else, far from those guys." It was a lie so blatant I almost laughed. "Are you talking about the insurance that only pays if I die?" He froze. He realized the mistake. "Emily." He changed tactics. The voice became threatening. "You took things from my safe. I need you to give them back. Now." "The black notebook? The evidence that you planned everything?" "You do not understand what you are doing. If you give that to the police, I go down. And if I go down, the guys I owe will come after you. Either way, you are not safe. But at least it won't be you trying to kill me." The rage finally exploded. "You were always so naive. Why do you think I married you? For love. You were a spoiled girl with mommy's money. It was just for that." It hurt. Even knowing it was true, it hurt to hear it. "And Matthew, our son, was also just for interest?" "The brat." He spat the words. "He was always weird. Too quiet. Watching everything. Weird kid." And there it was. The true hatred. It wasn't just about money. He truly despised us. That was when I heard, coming from the earpiece in my ear, "We have enough. Team, go." Suddenly, the homeless people stood up. The vendors dropped their stalls. Everyone converged on Richard with badges in hand. "Richard Fountain, you are under arrest." His face went through 5 emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, confusion, rage, fear, and finally, acceptance. He had lost. But before they could handcuff him, he did something no one expected. He ran. He sprinted through the park, knocking people over, jumping benches. The police went after him, but he had a head start, and he was running in my direction. I did not have time to react. He grabbed me, pulled something from his waist, a knife, and pressed it against my neck. "Nobody move!" he screamed. His voice was unrecognizable. "Or I kill her! I swear I kill her!" Detective Miller stopped 10 feet away, hands raised. "Calm down, Richard. You do not have to do this." "Of course I do. She ruined everything. Everything." The blade pressed harder. I felt a trickle of blood run down. My brain went into panic, but then I remembered Matthew, my son, watching everything. I could not let him watch me die. "Richard," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "you are not going to do this." "Don't tell me what I am or am not going to do. You won't do it because you are a coward. You always have been." I turned my head a little, looking him in the eyes. "Cowards do not kill while looking. They hire other people. And even at that, you failed." The knife trembled in his hand, and in that second of hesitation, something happened. A shot. Not to kill, to incapacitate. A sniper I hadn't even seen hit Richard's hand. The knife fell. He screamed in pain, and in seconds he was on the ground, handcuffed, surrounded by police. I fell to my knees, shaking. Detective Miller helped me up. "It is okay. It is over." But it didn't feel like it was over. Nothing felt real. I watched Richard being dragged to the patrol car. He was screaming, kicking, threatening. "This does not end here, Emily. You are going to pay. You are going to pay." Empty. All his threats were empty now. Richard's trial was fast. With all the evidence, the notebook, the phones, the recordings of our meeting, the testimony of the men he hired who made a plea deal, there was no defense possible. They tried to plead temporary insanity. They tried to say he was being coerced by the loan sharks. They tried everything. It didn't work. Richard was sentenced to 25 years in prison, attempted aggravated murder, twice, arson, fraud. The list was long. I did not go to the trial. I did not want to see his face ever again. But Attorney Jennifer did. She sent me a message when the sentence came out. "Justice is served." Justice. The word seemed strange, because it didn't seem fair that 8 years of my life had been a lie. It didn't seem fair that my son had to grow up knowing his own father wanted to kill him. But at least we were alive and free. In the following months, I had to rebuild everything. Literally everything. Documents, identity, bank account, home. I got access to the house insurance money. Ironic, since Richard had burned it to get another insurance. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start over. Attorney Jennifer helped me with all the paperwork. More than that, she became a friend. Maybe the first real friend I ever had. "Your father knew you were going to need me one day," she told me one afternoon, drinking coffee in the new apartment I rented. "He made me promise I would take care of you." "How did he know? About Richard?" "A father's intuition," she smiled. "Or maybe he saw things that you, in love, didn't want to see. Small signs, the way Richard looked at your family's money, how he asked about inheritances, how he got irritated when you talked about working." She was right. The signs were always there. It was me who chose to ignore them. Matthew was going to therapy. At first, he didn't want to talk about what happened, but with time, little by little, he started to open up. The therapist said he was resilient. Children are stronger than we imagine. But even being strong, he had nightmares. He woke up screaming, saying there was fire, that he couldn't get out, that his dad was coming. On those nights, I stayed with him. I hugged him. I sang the songs I sang to him when he was a baby. And slowly, he went back to sleep. "Mom," he asked me one night, a few months after the trial, "do you still love Dad?" The question caught me off guard. "Why do you ask that?" "Because he was bad, very bad, but he is still my dad, and I do not know if it is wrong to miss him sometimes." My heart broke. I pulled him into a tight hug. "It is not wrong, my love. He is your dad. And the part of him you knew, the part that played with you, that took you to the park, that part was real. Or at least you believed it was. And there is no problem in missing that. But he tried to hurt us. He tried. And that was horrible and unforgivable. But your feelings are yours. You can miss the dad you thought you had and still be angry about what he did. Both things can exist together." He stayed quiet for a while, then whispered, "I saved you, right, Mom? You saved us. You saved me and you saved yourself. You are my hero, Matthew." He smiled, a small but genuine smile, And in that moment, I knew we were going to be okay. Not immediately, not magically, but eventually. I started working again, something Richard never allowed. I got a job at a nonprofit that helped women victims of domestic violence. It seemed appropriate. I understood what they went through, the fear, the shame, the feeling that somehow it was their fault. And I could say, from the heart, it is not your fault. It never was. Attorney Jennifer offered me a partnership in her firm after a year. You have a talent for this, and passion. It would be a waste not to use it. I accepted. I went back to school. I did an accelerated law course. I took the bar exam. It wasn't easy. At 34, going back to books is challenging, but I passed, and I became a lawyer, specialized in family law and domestic violence cases. I used the pain to help other people, and in a way, that helped heal my own pain. 3 years after the fire, we moved into a real house, small, simple, but ours. Matthew chose his own room. He painted the walls blue. But not Batman, Mom. I grew up. He filled it with posters of astronauts. When I grow up, I am going to be an astronaut, he announced, or a scientist. I haven't decided yet. I laughed. You can be both. Really? Can you do that? You can do anything you want, son. And I believed that, because we had survived the impossible. What was a little ambition compared to that? Once in a while, I thought about Richard, mainly when I signed the divorce papers, which he contested, of course, but lost, or when I saw news about him in prison. Apparently, he wasn't adapting well. Did I feel pity? No. Anger? Sometimes, but mainly nothing. He had become irrelevant. A footnote in my story, not the main chapter. Life went on. Matthew grew up. I grew up with him. I learned to trust again, not blindly. Never blindly again, but with wisdom. I learned that warning signs exist for a reason, that listening to your intuition is not paranoia. And I learned that sometimes the people we love most are the ones who can hurt us the most. But I also learned that we can survive that and even grow. Today marks 5 years since that night at the airport. 5 years since Matthew whispered, "Don't go back home," and changed our lives forever. I am sitting on the porch of our house, drinking coffee. Matthew, now 11, is in the living room doing homework. It is Saturday, but he likes to get ahead on work. "Mom," he yells, "can I go to Luisha's house after lunch?" "You can, but be back before 6. "Okay." I smile at my coffee. He has friends now. Good friends. He stopped being that quiet and scared boy. He is still observant. He always will be. But he also laughs, plays, lives like every child should live. My cell phone rings. It is Attorney Jennifer, or rather, Jennifer. We dropped formalities a long time ago. "Good morning. You woke up early today. I have news," she says. I can hear the smile in her voice. "Remember that case we took last month, Fernanda?" I remember. 40-year-old woman, abusive husband, 3 children, no money to leave home. We did it. Protection order approved. She and the children are already in the shelter. Safe. I close my eyes, feeling that warmth in my chest. That is great. That is really great. That is what we do this for, right? For these moments? Yes. We hang up and I stay there thinking, how many women have we managed to help in these years? How many children did we save? Not in such a dramatic way as Matthew and I were saved, but saved nonetheless. From toxic relationships, from abuse, from situations with no way out, we transformed our tragedy into purpose. "Mom?" Matthew appears at the door. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." He sits in the chair next to me. He is bigger now, growing too fast for my taste. Soon he will be taller than me. "Are you happy?" The question takes me by surprise. "I am. Why?" He shrugs. "I just wanted to know. Because of everything that happened. I thought maybe you would stay sad forever." I take his hand. It is not so tiny anymore. I was sad for a while, yes, and I still get sad sometimes when I remember. But I am also happy because I have you. I have a job I love. I have real friends. I have a life that I chose. Not that someone chose for me. And Dad, did you forgive him already? That one is harder. I do not know if I forgave him. Forgiving does not mean forgetting or saying everything is okay. Maybe it is more about letting go, not carrying that weight anymore. And on that, yes, I think I succeeded. He nods, processing. I think so too. I do not think much about him. Just sometimes when I remember how it was before. But then I remember that wasn't real. And it gets easier. What wisdom for an 11-year-old boy. But Matthew was never an ordinary boy. He grew up too fast. He saw too many things. But he survived. And more than that, he blossomed. I love you very much. Did you know that? I tell him, hugging him. Me too, Mom. He hugs me back. Then he lets go. Can I go back to homework? I just have math left. You can. He goes back inside and I stay there on the porch, watching the sun rise in the sky. I think about how strange life is. 5 years ago, I was losing everything, or believing I was. The house, the marriage, the security. But actually, I was gaining something more important. Freedom. Freedom to be myself, to make my own decisions, to build a life based on truth, not pretty lies. And yes, it hurts. Sometimes it still hurts. There are nights I wake up sweating, dreaming of fire. There are days I see a man from afar who looks like Richard and my heart races. Trauma does not disappear completely. We learn to live with it, but we also learn that we are stronger than we imagine, that we can survive the unimaginable, that we can rebuild from the ashes, literally in my case. My phone vibrates again. Message from the support group I coordinate for survivors of domestic violence. Thank you for the meeting yesterday. For the first time, I felt I am not alone. I reply, you never were, and you never will be. We are in this together. It is for these messages that I do what I do, because I know what it is to feel alone, trapped, without a way out, and I know what it is to find an outstretched hand when you need it most. Like my father gave me when he left me Jennifer's card. Like Jennifer gave me when she took me in. Like Matthew gave me when he had the courage to speak. Even being so small, we do not save ourselves alone. We need each other. And now I give back. I extend my hand to other women who are where I was, and I lift them up. The sun is fully out now. A new day. A new opportunity. I get up. I go into the house. Matthew is at the table, concentrated on the numbers. He does not notice when I approach and kiss the top of his head. Mom, he protests. But he is smiling. I am trying to concentrate here. Sorry, I won't bother you anymore. I am going to the kitchen to make lunch. Something simple. Pasta with sauce. Matthew's favorite food. While I stir the sauce, I hear him humming in the living room. Humming. A boy who witnessed an attempted murder, who lost his home, who saw his father get arrested. He is humming while doing his math homework. If that is not resilience, I do not know what is. And it gives me hope. Hope that no matter what life throws at us, we can survive. We can overcome. We can even be happy again, not in the same way, not like we were before, but in a new way, stronger, wiser. The oven timer rings. I turn it off. I start serving the plates. Matthew, lunchtime. He comes running, as he always does when it is food. He sits at the table with that wide smile. What is for dessert? Ice cream. If you eat all your food first. I can do that in my sleep. We laugh. We eat. We talk about the week, about plans for the weekend, about the science project he is doing at school. Normal things, normal life. And it is beautiful, after all. It is beautiful to have that normalcy again. After lunch, Matthew goes to his friend's house. I wash the dishes, I tidy the house, I answer some work emails. Routine. Wonderful. Mundane. routine. In the afternoon when Matthew returns, we watch a movie together, silly animation that makes me laugh. He complains that it is kid stuff, but he laughs too. And when night falls, when I tuck him in, even though he complains he's already too big for that, he gives me a tight hug. Mom? Yes? Thank you. Why, love? For believing me. That day at the airport. If you hadn't believed me, but I believed you, and I am always going to believe in you. He smiles. He settles into bed. Good night, Mom. Good night, my hero. I turn off the light. I close the door. And for the first time in 5 years, I do not feel afraid of tomorrow, because no matter what comes, I know we will face it together, and we are going to survive. Like always, we survived. Now, if you like this story, click subscribe and tell me in the comments which part left you with your mouth open. Oh, and don't forget to join as a member to have access to exclusive videos that I don't upload here. I'll see you there.